Yes. Welcome. We're going to talk about NXT Deadline from December the 10th, 2022. It was a show from top to bottom. It was mostly good. Nothing really ridiculous happened. Some fun stuff occurred. Everybody worked very hard, but whenever you say everybody works hard, it's kind of a dead giveaway that it was a work rate show, which of course it was. With one big surprise, but not much else. So, all right, let's talk about the show. The Women's Iron Survivor Challenge was won by Roxanne Perez, who won with a score of, I think she had 2 points, while everybody else had 1. So, solid enough match. Zoe Stark and Roxanne Perez started the match. They told the story of basically Roxanne being sort of the punching bag early. She was, I think the first 2 points of the match were scored on her. She actually wasn't looking very good to start the thing. But slowly but surely, she kind of built up some momentum. They played into her feud with Cora Jade a little bit, not too much. So it was a nice little come from behind victory for Roxanne Perez. Her and Zoe Stark did a lot of traditional wrestling to start the match. Kiana James, they still had her storyline with Fallon Henley and Brooks Jensen. Earlier in the night, they had Brooks Jensen bring Kiana James some flowers as a thank you for the tickets. She then cut into him about wearing a shirt that was too small. And it seemed like she's just kind of gonna be the what they call the sundeer, the girl who likes you but treats you like crap. That seems to be what they're gonna do here. Maybe just use her to lure away and separate Brooks Jensen and Fallon Henley. Ought to be interesting, but none of the storylines that you would think played into this match. There was no Nikita Lyons. There was no Fallon Henley interference. There was just Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade and everybody else. So the final stretch came with Cora Jade hitting her DDT finish on Roxanne, but Roxanne rolled out of the ring as time elapsed. Booker T was ecstatic because Roxanne Perez is one of his students. He had a pretty good night, from what I know. His students were very successful. That's all I'm going to say. I had another show spoiled for me, so I know that another Booker T student was very successful. So Booker T was actually back over near the announce table with a handkerchief, patting his eyes and everything. It's really just hamming it up. Like he really just loves Rock. She didn't win the title. She doesn't want a title shot. For Christ's sake, Booker. This is the second time she's gotten a title shot. All right. There was some backstage segments featuring Ivy Nile and Tatum Paxley, where they basically got offered a tag team championship match by KC Squared. Okay. KC Squared then went to go hang out with Idris Enofe and Malik Blade, but they were going to train because Odyssey Jones has a big match on Tuesday and they can't afford to be caught slacking. So KC Squared then got accosted by Toxic Attraction, who said they only want to fight teams that they can beat, which led to a big fight with Tatum Paxley and Ivy Nile. I really don't see why we needed this. We didn't really need this at all, So they're going to have a match on Tuesday. I'm guessing to have Ivy Nile and Tatum Paxley actually win a match against a team that matters before they wrestle KC Square. Well, it would be Caden. That would be the former KC Catanzaro, whose name now is Katana Chance, and Caden Carter. All right, who cares about that, really? Nobody gives a shit. Match 2, Alba Fire versus Isla Dawn, and what looked like two vampires from the Underworld movies fighting. I mean, just no tan, no color anywhere in this match except for the top of their damn heads. Isla Dawn wins the match via spooky stuff because a referee got sick, like black ooze, and started coming out of his mouth and nose. The match was actually fun until this happened because it came out of nowhere and literally made no sense. But Alba Fire had hit her Swanton, which is one of her finishers. And before the referee could count, he was under the weather and started puking up black stuff. Booker T, of course, freaked out on commentary, yelling about how the referee needs help. Isla Dawn then smashed Alba Fire's head onto the exposed turnbuckle in the middle of the of the rope. Then she hit her finish, which is a reverse DDT, to win the match as a second referee runs into the ring. Booker T, one of his wonderful quotes of the evening: "If black stuff starts coming out of your nose, I think your mother will want me to help you." I think it was a solid enough match until we got to that goofy, spooky finish. Clearly, they want to try to tell this story about Isla Dawn putting some kind of hex on this referee. Apparently, this is the same referee they had before. Doesn't matter really. I don't know, man. You spit like mist into the face of the referee, and then a couple of days later, he starts coughing up gunk. I don't know, man. I think that these two girls, I think you had to do something to get Isla Dawn some heat without just her beating Alba Fire clean. I get that, but I didn't like this finish. I didn't like the finish. I thought the finish was weak. So I think the weak finish kind of takes away from the match, with all the voodoo stuff or whatever. Isla Dawn is an interesting character, though. All right. So the big news, New Day win the NXT Tag Team Championships to become Triple Crown champions. And they defeat Pretty Deadly, in which was probably the best match of the night. Booker T is absolutely disgusted by New Day and everything that they do. And I am also disgusted by New Day. There was a twerk off in the middle of this match, and I wanted to shut this off. It was between Elton Prince and Kofi Kingston as they were twerking in the middle of the ring. Kofi always does it. In this instance, Elton Prince wanted to show him how to twerk for real, and he decided to do it. And then Kofi decided to take it to the next level and even dropped down on all fours. I was just thoroughly embarrassed that this was even occurring. But as the match went on, that embarrassment dwindled a little bit. And then it went away completely when they did the 4-man Eddie Guerrero spot, which is tremendous. It was great stuff. They were already doing tremendous athletic work. Pretty Deadly are really good, effective heels. Of course, we know what New Day can do as baby faces, how they're athletic, and especially Kofi Kingston. The 4-man Eddie Guerrero spot was tremendous. It started with Kit Wilson throwing the title to Xavier Woods and taking a bump. Xavier Woods then hot potatoed the belt to Elton Prince, then took a bump. Elton Prince is just holding the belt. He tosses it to Kofi, takes a bump. Kofi just drops the belt and takes a bump. And now everybody's down and the referee is just looking at him. The crowd reacted tremendously. It's been well received, and it's one of the best spots I've seen in a long time. It was really fun. The finish came with I think with the New Day's finish, the Midnight Hour, which pinned, I think it was Elton Prince. So the match was really good. Outside of the twerking spot, which I am going to try to overlook, this was probably one of my favorite tag team matches in a while. It's very unique in so much as that they dumped a lot of entertainment into the fight choreography, as you would put it, as you would form it. The 4-man Eddie Guerrero spot was legit funny. Booker T being disgusted by everything New Day did and generally not liking New Day was tremendous stuff. I mean, Booker T's hatred of New Day is legit. And I'm pretty sure it's reciprocated at some point. But he is not shy about his dislike of New Day. With this win, Kofi Kingston is now a 15-time tag team champion, and which is the most all-time, eclipsing even Booker T. And Booker T was definitely upset about this. He was distraught that Kofi Kingston surpassed his all-time tag team record. I would think that he would be even more disgusted that, the black WWE champion is in the ring twerking with a white dude. That's the part that bothered me. But hey, I got different standards than everybody else, I guess. For most people, this was okay. For me, I was kind of like, not a big fan. All right, New Year's Evil will be January the 10th. For some reason, it's called it's like a countdown to the new year. It's like it's on the 10th. Like you're 9 days into the new year at that point. I don't know. They should think about that a little bit more before they do it next time. All right. Iron Survivor Men's was won by Grayson Waller, which was a huge surprise. Grayson Waller won the match, I believe, with 3 points. He won. He came in at fourth. Grayson Waller scored 2 pinfalls immediately after coming in because guys were beating the hell out of each other. Then he went over there. He did the old Randy Orton suplex on the announce table. Then yelled at Booker T, "Who's in your fave 5 now, bitch?" And Booker T just looked at him like, "What, young man? Would you please tell me he didn't say that?" Hey, Booker T rules. Okay, Booker T was on point all night. He's nothing but humor. Axiom showed out. He scored 2 points. He did a moonsault off the penalty box. It was a lot occurring. They did a lot with the penalty box. JD McDonough didn't score any points, as far as I can tell. He ended up with 0, but his idea was to try to lock Axiom in the penalty box. At one point, Axiom locked himself in the penalty box with JD McDonough so he can kick his ass, which he did. Which, of course, is just playing off of their storyline against one another. But that's about it. Sure, we could talk about Carmelo Hayes not winning, which I think everybody wanted Carmelo Hayes to win. But I think a purer heel in Grayson Waller was probably the right decision. Well, because I think Grayson Waller needed something to push him to that level, while Carmelo Hayes is just kind of already there. I understand the frustration of the Carmelo Hayes fan base who are sitting back saying to themselves, wait, this was his night? How could you? Why wouldn't you go that way? I get why you would say that, but think about it this way. Carmelo Hayes did not need to win this match in order to be considered a favorite or a top contender for the title. And who knows? He might actually get called up and pulled out of NXT completely. I don't see that happening, but why it's an opportunity for him, on the main roster. And he's one of the guys Shawn Michaels said was TV ready. So maybe they felt Grayson Waller. I think Grayson Waller is one of the guys that Shawn said is TV ready too. I forgot that quickly, and we already had this conversation just like yesterday or 2 days ago. So I like Grayson Waller being in this position. I'm not mad that he won and not Carmelo Hayes. It would have made more sense for it to be Hayes. But you can say that Hayes don't need it. And also, you can elongate Hayes' trip to the main event, maybe even begin a face turn, if that's what you want to do. But Grayson Waller being the guy who just basically ran out the clock in order to win, it's fine. It's about time that young Grayson Waller has been pushed as a top guy. I've been crowing about this dude for weeks, talking about how he should have been a top guy, especially back when they brought him in to feud with AJ Styles, or AJ Styles to feud with him. I was saying, hey, Grayson Waller was your hottest heel at the time because he had ran Johnny Gargano out of the company. So they're finally trying to get him back to that level, and having him essentially steal the match from Carmelo Hayes was a good way of doing that in terms of giving him heat and giving him purpose and a direction. Do I think Grayson Waller will win the title? Probably not. I don't think so. And I think that's the negative here, is that you kind of want to, like, I do believe Roxanne Perez will defeat Mandy Rose for the NXT Women's title. I do believe that. That will occur. I do believe that it benefits tremendously for Pretty Deadly to lose to New Day. Like I said before, if they beat New Day, where do they go from there? But if they lose, now they can program with New Day. Now New Day can work with the Creed brothers. They can work with Indus Sher. They can work with Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs. They have so many different options. When with New Day, despite the fact that they're stale as 2-month-old moldy donuts, at least there's something fresh and something new and something different to do with New Day. Similar situation with Dolph Ziggler when he won the NXT title. You bring a little heat, little notoriety with the belt, and then you drop it Make the belt hotter than when you picked it up, and then you drop it back. Somebody, just think about it this way. If you're in any way bothered by this, think about it this way. There's going to be a young tag team who's going to end up beating the New Day for that championship. And that's going to be very important. Pretty Deadly are so good that it doesn't really bother them to lose. But the Creed brothers or somebody like that is about to get a huge rub beating New Day. And I hope that they beat them on the biggest stage possible, which would probably be like a WrestleMania weekend show. At least theoretically, it should be a WrestleMania weekend show. Now, Grayson Waller, again, top contender, like that. He is going to be wrestling Bron Breakker, because Bron Breakker defeated Apollo Crews. Now, interesting thing. As much as I spent time absolutely barfing at the conception of the Bron Breakker Apollo Crews feud, I have to say, I saw something on Twitter that made me think. When somebody was talking about how wholesome the feud was. And in reading their comments, because I do take people's thoughts into my thoughts and say, okay, do they have a point? And I think after I read it, which was essentially the wholesomeness it's a very unique way of building a babyface versus babyface match, where one of the baby faces, of course, is stressed out over being the champion, and the other one is kind of like, look, I'm going to beat you for the belt anyway, so, I'm going to do you a favor, bud. Send you on a vacation or something like that. It's going to be very cool. And I was reminded, just kind of as I sat and was reading it, of the Apollo Creed Rocky Balboa relationship from like Rocky 3, and you get the idea that there's still some tension there, but they respect each other and they're friendly, and I could see that relationship between Apollo Crews and Rock and I'm about to say Rocky, Apollo Crews and Bron Breakker. Of course, that tension, that fight between Apollo Crews and Rocky was it was still there. That desire to punch each other in the face. There was no real desire that I saw for these two guys to fight one another. It looked like these were two guys who were about to play a friendly game of basketball, not necessarily two guys who were about to throw punches at each other. And I still maintain that the booking of this build left a lot to be desired. And this is one of those times where I know doing something new or something experimental, there is value in that sometimes, but there's also value in just doing the right thing. And knowing what the right thing is and doing that and leaving it at that. And I think Apollo Crews should have turned heel in this match. He still did not. Even though they did that weird zoom into his face while he bulged his eyes and made puffy faces. I mean, it was very strange. It was a very odd decision. But the match itself was really good, but the finish was anticlimactic. During Bryan's entrance, there was a montage of all of his opponents and basically his year in 2022. And it was kind of foreshadowing that he would lose. That's what it kind of felt like to me. But he did. Of course, he didn't lose. Now, they played into the storyline that they had set up. They did a test of strength, collar and elbow tie-up. Neither one of them could win. They kept doing different agility-based moves. Both of them were, either dodging it or they had a general idea of what their opponent could do. So they basically told the story of, I know your stuff, you know my stuff. And then Bron Breakker destroyed Apollo Crews with like a one of those Kenny Omega jumps from over the top rope. It was wild. And he hit him flush. It was pretty flush. I'm guessing that Apollo Crews was making faces because he was having visions. Because he got more aggressive after he had the visions, I guess. It didn't help. That's what, would have been a perfect time for him to turn heel, but he didn't. He did not. It was dumb. Apollo Crews ended up using Braun Breaker's Gorilla Press Power Slam and still didn't get the 3 count. And then out of nowhere, Braun hits a spear and pinned Apollo Crews. It is incredibly anticlimactic. One spear finishes the match. Look, I'm okay with one big move leading to the finish, but the spear, that's my problem, man. It's like, okay, the spear's been around forever. There's literally like 4 or 5 people running around, and especially in wrestling, who's using that same move. There's probably more than that in wrestling using the spear as a finish. We got to be able to do something better. And also, Apollo Crews is a guy that supposedly knows everything, can see into the future. He knows Braun Breaker, been studying him. You mean to tell me you couldn't survive that one spear? Like, goddamn. They probably could have used a little bit more time to cook more, and they most certainly, could have used the heel turn. For Christ's sake, I don't know how many times I have to say that. But the match itself was very solid. 2 big dudes doing a little bit of agility-based stuff. Anything you can do, I can do better. But I would have liked a little bit more drama. And that's certainly more of a traditional story. And I think that you really did not help Braun at all by having him beat Apollo Crews, especially beating him so flat. You just really didn't do the kid no favors. A bunch of people already thinking Braun is like super stale in this position, like him being the guy, and that's really his only character trait. And now in Fisherman, he is the guy, but also the fisherman, and that's weird. Who really is interested in jacked up Bubba Gump? I don't know. But I guess Shawn Michaels knows more than I do. In any event, the match was solid. I think the finish was kind of anticlimactic and flat, but other than that, it was fine. Grayson Waller attack at the end. We could have saved that. Pretty predictable. It meant nothing. It sent people home with a negative view of the show when it wasn't called for. Like, why send people home with Grayson Waller holding up the title? Like, why would you do that when Braun Breaker is, perfect choice right here? It's a pay-per-view, If it was TV, it would have been different, but this is a pay-per-view. Like, come on. Kind of nonsensical. Okay, one last thing. Drew Gulak was there. He basically just said he doesn't feel like he's living up to his full potential in WWE, and that's why he came back to NXT, to live up to his full potential. He's not coming back, to be soft. He's coming back to grind. And he wants to see if there's anybody in NXT who could help him as much as he wants to help them. So at that point, Damon Kemp, formerly of Diamond Mine, approached and offered his services, but said that he wanted Drew Gulak to watch his match on Tuesday, and Drew Gulak agreed to do so. So the Gulak thing is interesting, only because I want to know where it's going. And Gulak is the perfect kind of guy you would want to put in NXT. He's an undersized guy who was never going to make it in the main roster, but he's got a lot of experience. And he probably has enough of a fandom where him being in NXT is good for business. If only they put Cedric Alexander back in NXT. If only they sent Shelton Benjamin in NXT, Hey, we could have so much fun down there with some veterans and some new talents, and it could be different. It could be nice. It could be a good opportunity for us. All right, so that's the show. The show is only 5 matches. As I said before, Roxanne Perez, I can see her beating Mandy Rose. I think that needs to happen. That she might have to do some kind of blow-off match with Cora Jade before it happens. Maybe they have a, I don't know, cage match or a submission match or something. Or maybe, she wins the title and then Cora Jade is her first opponent, which also works out for me. But I definitely think Roxanne Perez is going to end up winning that title from Mandy Rose. And I made that prophecy way back when, and I'm going to stick to it. Even though it seemed like I wasn't going to get what I wanted out of that deal. But it turns out I am. Alba Fire, once again, loses. You have to beg the question, what the hell is next for her? I'm guessing there's a rematch in here somewhere. But she's probably going to lose that too. Namely because Isla Dawn is fairly new and needs to be established. Isla Dawn, where we're going with her, what's her ceiling? I don't know. Considering I think Alba Fire is probably more liked on the NXT UK roster, and she didn't get to win anything. So I don't know how Isla Dawn would do. But from a character perspective, she got some long legs. Talked about the New Day winning. Again, it's good for the division. Helps the division out. Pretty Deadly got to show off what they can do, even though they lost. This was a match that everybody's going to see. So it ended up being fun, with the exception of the twerking shits. You got the men's Iron Survivor match, where everybody's, except JD McDonough, kind of did their thing. McDonough just basically was in the match to play with Axiom. That was really the only reason he was there. But an interesting winner. Could be disappointing to some, because everybody was like, Carmelo Hayes clearly should win. And I was saying Carmelo Hayes should clearly win, but when I see that if they're serious about the Grayson Waller thing, and I don't mean serious enough to put the belt on him, but serious enough where he's not going to be positioned as being a joke anymore, then this is worth doing. Because again, Carmelo Hayes could just challenge the champion and be okay in my book. All right, so that was NXT Deadline. What did you guys think? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.